What's the biggest mistake you made on your first job interview? Why should we hire you instead of anyone else? I don't even know who else you are interviewing with. How could I know that I'm better than them? Led to a really awkward silence. Showed up in person to a phone interview. Interviewer: are you a smoker? Me: cigarettes? Interviewed at a bank. Was going perfectly despite how nervous I was, and I was probably in with a great chance. Then as a final question, the panel asked me why should we hire you, and I word vomit replied because I probably won't steal your money. I was not hired. Interviewer: do you think you're capable of doing this kind of work? Me: yeah, I guess. Yes I am. I saw how the interviewer was trying to hide his laughter. Interviewer: should we hire you? Me: I mean, that's really up to you guys. Obviously I want the job, but that's not my decision. Fortunately I'd been doing pretty well up until then, so she just laughed and gave me a second chance to answer it properly. First time I was honest about why I was leaving my old job and the reason was negative. Next time I had a story about how while I loved my current job, the new job gave an additional positive push to my career path. You have to bend the truth for sure. The boss agreed to the first salary I suggested for myself, so I took that to mean I should have asked for more. Asked about my hobbies, talked about sewing and reading. Guy pushed a little more, asked if there was anything else. I was confused why he would push at this question and said no. I was interviewing at a freaking video store. The correct answer is watching movies, dumbass. I will never let myself live that one down. I kept saying etc. after every question. After not being able to answer one of my questions, I had an interviewee lay her head down on the conference table and announce I'm failing. Well, thank you for coming in. It was at a popular craft store. They asked what crafts I like to do and I had zero craft talent. I lied and said I like making jewelry because I did so in school once. They hired me, and whenever a customer had a jewelry question they always asked me. I eventually learned the ropes though. Responding with I don't know to a few questions. Interviewing for a part-time job at Kmart as a summer gig in college. HR director: so everything looks good. If you ever need a job reference or a letter of recommendation, come see me at the end of your employment here and we'll see what we can do. Me: oh, that won't be necessary. I have references from real jobs already. I still got the job, but holy crap. I was applying for a fast food job. We went over my application and all that jazz. So far, so good. Then the manager says who's important? Me. Totally confused. Excuse me. Manager: who's important? Me. Still clueless. Everyone is important. Manager: nearly weeping at my cluelessness. The customer is important. I didn't get the job. I had several jobs before my first actual interview, but my first interview was for a job selling hot dogs. I was asked what my biggest weaknesses were, and stupid teenage me listed actual weaknesses like being lazy and not really caring about anything. I wasn't very smart back then. I didn't get the job but found an article in some magazine. This was before the internet was used by regular people. Shortly after that gave me the right answers to that question. My biggest weakness is hot dogs. Not exactly a mistake, but I went to the counter of the store and asked if they were hiring. They said they were and gave me an on-the-spot interview right there in the middle of the store with my mom standing right with me. I was 16 and she had given me a ride to the store. My mom proceeded to answer every question for me and kept talking me up. I ended up getting the job and worked there for over 2 years. So thanks mom, lol. The guy asked me where I saw myself in 5 years back in 2015. I said I don't know. I don't have 2020 vision. Then followed up with an actual answer. Never got called back. I'm surprised they didn't hire you on the spot. Asked about a time I had to make a compromise and, not drawing on any past experiences beyond an hour ago, I cited the time I had to give the last blue Jolly Rancher to my girlfriend even though it's my favorite flavor. Still got the job, but wow. I dropped my suit off at the dry cleaners and went back to get it the morning of the interview and they had lost it. With the interview only about 20 minutes away, the owner gave me his suit to borrow. It was a tan suit, way too big, had a striped pattern, and reeked of mustard and sweat. Safe to say I did not make a good first impression at that interview. When asked why I wanted to work for McDonald's, I said that I wanted money mainly. I didn't get the job. Manager, how'd your drug test go? Me. Without hesitation. I don't know. The results aren't in. Manager lols with co-worker, haha, she doesn't know. See? She should know, then says with a smile, this question is the best drug test I know. He was an awesome and funny boss. Thank God. God dang it, I would fall for that every time. Not my first interview, but this one always stands out to me. I was in the army at the time and was looking to get a part-time job after work to help out with the bills. Little Caesars was doing open interviews, so right after work I rush over for the interview. The hiring manager is looking my resume. Before joining the army I was a manager at Domino's, so resume shows that I was a manager at Domino's. And then a month later I joined the army. He looks up at me wearing my uniform since I just came from work and asks why I left Domino's. I answered because it was time to get a real job. I didn't get the job. Okay, this is embarrassing, but when I was a teenager I was able to get an interview to work at a major coffee chain that offered good benefits and I really wanted the job. I had one job until this point and didn't have a lot of experience with job interviews, so I googled up some tips to help me with that. One of the things that I read was the importance of maintaining very good eye contact lest the interviewer thought that you were disinterested or bored. I maintained very good eye contact. It was too good. That guy must have thought that I was some sort of psychopath because I would not break eye contact at all. It was as if we were having a staring contest that he lost several times but that I would not let up on. I had to wait a few more years before I was able to get a job with that company. I was offered the possibility to get an apprenticeship as a software engineer when I was 16. That was a pretty great chance and I wanted everything to be perfect. It was about 32 degrees Celsius, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The day and their office was in middle of nowhere. I planned to go there by bus but I missed it. So I had to take a really slow, weird train which stopped near there and had to walk to the office building. Since I was really late already, I would have been 20 minutes early with the bus. I ran there. So I arrived there 10 minutes late and was sweaty. I was also dripping with sweat through the whole interview. Still got the job, somehow. Said well, thanks for coming in. I was the one who had come in. Phone sales job. They asked me if I thought it would be easier or more difficult to sell over the phone than in person. My answer was that phone would be easier. Judging by their facial expressions, that was the wrong answer. The interviewer asked if I had any convictions. I sat there and thought for a moment and said, well, I guess I'm passionate about saving the environment. He was very confused and said, what are you talking about? I'm asking if you have been convicted of any crimes. I did not get that job. With my voice audibly shaking from nervousness, I tried to convince my interviewer that I love meeting new people. She called me out on that one during the interview. I didn't get the job. My first big boy interview at a financial advisory firm couldn't have been worse. To start, I had hair down to the middle of my back which I had just put up in a bun, and a patchy beard. I walk into the office to meet with the well-groomed, cologne-wearing, every fashion accessory available wearing salesman who would interview me. He asked me, how would you describe a sunset to someone who was born blind? My response was, yellow, wait a minute, orange, crap, they're blind. After the interview was over, he said that I looked like a drug dealer. I went to a job interview that was basically a front for hiring pyramid salesmen. My mistake, not leaving early enough. Strangely, I spent 6 hours there. What a waste of a day. My first job interview was with a recruiter for the army. You could say showing up was my biggest mistake. Not for a job but for a position for the student government at my university. So why are you interested in this position? Lists legitimate good answers to the question, then, comma and cause it looks good on my resume. Didn't get the position. Wasn't my first job interview, but it took me a few tries to realize that it's a bad idea to not ask questions when prompted to at the end of the interview. It shows that you aren't interested in their company, and implies that you're just in this for the paycheck. I find that a lot of companies these days care just as much about your interest in them as they do your skills and background. Saying I can work any shift, any day of the week plus holidays, ha ha ha. Once I went to an interview and I had to bring with me my curriculum. It was raining and it got wet. I tried to explain but they never called me again. Not everyone understands rain, man. Was honest and said I was using it as a temporary stepstone to a better job. Not my first interview, but one of my firsts. I had a typo in my resume that my BS was a BA. The interviewer pointed it out after I said I was detail oriented. I had interviewed 3 other people in that company who all loved me up until then, and the job was going to be a shoo-in because I knew someone who worked there who really wanted me on his team. I did not get hired because of that typo. This story sounds like a bunch of BA to me. I was interviewing for a job doing programming. After acing a phone interview and tech interview, I was flown to their headquarters for more interviews. During the HR interview, she said, "We're actually trying to fill multiple positions. We have some openings in customer phone support. Would you be interested in that?" Me, being a dumbass, said not really, when honestly it would have been fine. But the job I was interviewing for seemed cooler. They asked why and I said that my father does similar work and hates it. She then says, "Oh, well, to get our employees to really become familiar with our product, we have them spend 50% of their time in customer support for the first 3 years." I backdaled a bit, but it wasn't if any use. Pro tip: when you don't get the job, ask where you were lacking or what you can improve. They confirmed that this is where I screwed up. My new interview technique. Heck yeah, I love that awful thing you just mentioned. Went to an assessment center recently for a job at a very big business company, and I told the interviewer I'm nervous when I walked through the door, and I said no when asked, "Do you have any further questions?" And I was very bossy and uncooperative in the group activity task, and I applied for a job that was unrelated to my degree, and I suggested cheating when doing a group activity task, which resulted in the assessors sighing loudly. Usually they don't interact with the candidates at all, and to top it off, I lost my train ticket so I couldn't get reimbursed for the £100 journey fees. You are a complete freaking mess. I freaked the frick out and forgot how old I was. Turns out I was 14 and absolutely terrified. And no, I didn't get the job. Still haunts me to this day. My brother was a manager at Chili's and spoke highly of me to the district manager. They were opening 2 new restaurants, so they took his word for it and I went in for the interview. I had plenty of experience and my brother told me I'll get the job as long as I don't do anything stupid. Interview was going great and towards the end they mentioned my brother was heading in and let's wait till he gets there. While waiting we are small talking and the district manager says, "Wait a second, I didn't test you. How is your math?" I said it was pretty good. He asks me conversion stuff like ounces to pounds and I got it all. He then asks me what's 10% of 50,000 and I froze. For the life of me, it all left my head and I sat there dumbfounded. After a minute of just staring at him, he hands me a piece of paper and asks if I need to write it out. I write out 50,000 and pretend to do math. Just stalling. District and 2 managers just staring at me. I started sweating and wondering what the frick is happening here. District manager takes the paper and says he will give me a call and to have a good day. As I am getting into my car, my brother parks beside me. I say nothing and drove off. Had he been there 5 minutes before, I wouldn't have froze up. Just so no one else has this happen to them. 10% of 50,000 is 5,000. Just shout it out when asked and don't overthink it like I did. Interviewer: so why do you want this job? Me: you took my CV. Interviewer: me: so either give me the job or give me my CV back. My first ever internship interview. Me: hi, how are you? Him: good, and you? Me: I'm doing well, how are you? It still keeps me up at night. Not my first interview, but I was working the night shift at a cafeteria all by myself and hated it. My job consisted of standing around for hours on end. Since I had already cleaned and stocked everything by 4 PM, went in for an interview for a big box store. So, this job will consist of you standing at the registers for hours on end. Are you okay with that? Yes. Okay. What do you do for your current job? Stand at the register for hours on end. Hating life. I didn't get the job. Well, it sounds like you were overqualified. They really just needed someone who can stand at the registers for hours on end. The interviewer asked if I smoked and I replied smoke what, immediately lost my chances at getting the job. You have been visited by the money frog. He says frog money to get $200 on the street. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.